Hello, Pro Preppers. So, Dr. Andy C here, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about something called allostatic stress. So, if you're on the behaviour change and motivation guidelines, you'll come across a set of slides that look like this. So, these are the motivational interview slides, and this here is the cycle based around behaviour change, and it basically is a concept which asks you, are you ready for change, and are you ready to get results? Now, prior to even getting to this phase here, whereby we can think about let's take action and really get ready to make change, it's important to consider where we're at in our life, and actually, are we ready to make the changes that we need to make in order for us to reach our goals? Moreover, it's also worth considering that at different points on our fitness journeys, we may encounter different things which are going to hamper our progress or affect our ability to move forward in the direction that we want to move in. And this is why I'm going to talk about stress today. So, allostatic stress or allostatic load. What actually is it? So here's a definition from GuildExcel from this scientific paper here. And this idea of allostatic stress, it's the daily experiences or ordinary events in life, some of them long life standing, some of them major challenges, combined with your own sort of physiological health at that period of time. So maybe you're overweight or underweight, maybe you smoke, maybe you don't smoke. And all of these things contribute towards things such as poor sleep, poor circadian rhythm disruption on here as well, and they all contribute to internally what's going on within the body. Now, we all have something called an allostatic load, and once we reach a tipping point and we go over the amount of load that we can actually cope with, then things start to break down. So, when the environmental challenges, as it says here, exceed our ability to cope, then we transition into this sort of extreme state, and we're no longer able to buffer the load, as the scientific jargon sort of states on here. So, what does this all mean? And I'm going to give you some examples as well. It's basically we're talking about stress. So, it's not just any stress, but it's all the ordinary things that go on in our life, plus all the external factors which influence us as well. So, did we have a bad experience at the shops? Are we having issues at our work? What's going on within our home life? Do we have money worries? Do we have to travel a lot? Are we in poor housing conditions? Is there family or relationship stresses going on? And then all of us, we're all trying to get in shape with our fitness goals. So poor diet is not something that we always have to consider, but the poorer our diet, the more likely we are to be in poor health, and the higher our body fat and the higher our BMI, again, the more physiologically we're likely to be in poor health. So you can apply this, you can imagine, along with things like alcohol and smoking to more so the general population. But all these things contribute towards, on this side of the scale, they all add up. And then on this side we've got things such as your ability to progress in the gym, how that affects our sex drive, our mental health, how it affects our resilience, our general well-being, how it affects our sleep quality, our motivation, our ability to lose weight as well. So all of these things are very, very important, and they do physiologically influence these things here. And it's not just a case of, say, all of these things here putting pressures on us time-wise. There is actual a physiological response that goes on with this. And this is something that I very often say to a lot of people is, if we're looking at people who are really great at getting results in our fitness world, what we tend to see is that young men between the ages of around about 19 to 24, single young men, they tend to get great progress. And it's because they've got nothing really going on in their life. They're fully committed to their goals of getting in shape. They've not got relationship issues. They've not got family to look after. They're very early on in their career, so it's not like they've got issues of managing teams and things like this, and they can commit to things. They're not worrying about buying houses and all this sort of stuff, and because they're young, they've not normally got sports injuries or anything like this. If we compare that to someone who's maybe in their mid-30s, who's got a family that they're looking after, they're trying to get promoted at work, they're maybe doing shift patterns, they're maybe falling out with their spouse, or maybe they're even divorced, and they've got to deal with things like that. All of these things contribute to someone's ability to make progress in the gym. So I guess what I'm saying here is we have to set our expectations around what we can hope to achieve based around our current circumstances, and accept that there might be some things that we've got to sort of work out in our home life first, which are going to allow us to contribute towards the ability to make progress. Because up here, our cognitive load, we can only take so much. And a great analogy I once heard was about the coffee cup. And if you imagine, we've got our coffee cup here, and this coffee cup is empty. There's nothing in this one, compared to this coffee cup, which is halfway full already. So this one's halfway full, this one's empty, and if you imagine, we all start the day with a coffee cup of stress. The empty person can get to the end of the day, and that coffee cup's filling up with stress. Then by the time they go to bed at night and they get to the end of the day, then they're okay. They don't get overloaded. However, if you're starting your day with your coffee cup half full, or it's near the top, brimming to the top, your ability to manage a lot of stress, you don't have a high capacity before you start to potentially break down, things go wrong, or things just get on top of you as well. Now, other things that are worth mentioning that I've not included are illness. Obviously has a factor to play in on this side of the chart as well. But very often people are always asking me about, Andrew, why am I potentially not losing weight? And one of the classic sort of things that we always see is when people are stressed, they just hold water. They just hold water, and that's a classic immune system response compared to someone that's in a very healthy state. The other thing, of course, at the same time, is people that are generally got a lot of stress, they're much more likely to get sick as well. So more prone to getting various different bugs and things like this because their immune system is suppressed. Now, moving back to the science on this, it's important to remember that it's the exposure to these continuous stressors and repeatedly that causes us to get chronic stress. It's that inability to adapt to it and the inability to shut off as well. So it's extremely important that we always have outlets for stress, and that might be the gym for you, or cardio, or going for walks, or taking your dog out, just to help you manage your mental health. And again, that will ensure that you manage to get results. It's important that you're able to switch off as well, have that little bit of escapism. Some people just like watching junk TV, playing games. Other people might have different pastimes though, like meditation, yoga, breathing exercises, listening to music, different hobbies, podcasts, reading. So it's important that we've got these things in our life and that we've got that level of self-care at the same time. We also need to strike a balance between gym life and work life, and gym life and just life as well at the same time, because if we're all one way, then we don't often have any outlets as well. So this, very important that we have outlets to help us manage stress so we can get away from this stuff, so that we can be a little bit more balanced. It's important that we talk to people as well. So in terms of stress, here's a little bit of the science. So what is essentially happening is we've got our fight or flight response centres within our brain, and stress is very often it's a response to a threat. So if you think about yourself as a primitive primate or a caveman back in the day, and you encounter a stressor, like say a lion, then you get a fight or flight response takes place. And the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to elevate your heart rate, you're going to start releasing adrenaline, and then you're going to start having a large dump of carbohydrate into your bloodstream, along with that adrenaline, to help you escape the line. Your blood pressure is going to go up at the same time. And that's the sort of normal fight or flight response to help you escape from that situation. However, that is a sort of primitive response. We fast forward to the 21st century, and the caveman, the primate, never had all the stresses of modern life to escape from. So they would escape from the lion, and then after that, the fight or flight response would get switched off. However, 21st century living, we can actually get in a state of whereby we end up with chronic stress, and this fight or flight system is constantly switched on, just at a lower elevated level. So we've got low-grade inflammation ensuing, which has immunosuppressant effects, e.g. this is why we get water being held, and people get sickness and bugs and things like this. The cardiovascular system gets affected, the gastrointestinal system gets affected, so people can get IBS, for example, because we've got all this adrenaline being released. Hormonally, thyroid systems can go awry, and things like the blood sugar levels, insulin system can get influenced as well. Sleep balances can ensue at the same time. And then there's a whole common core of biological markers which are affected as well. So we're talking cortisol, very important stress hormone that I think we're all aware of. This is testosterone, essentially, so this can get suppressed as a consequence of the constant stress, and the same thing can happen in females as well, in which the estrogen levels affected and your ability to bear children. A common thing that can potentially happen is the loss of the menstrual cycle. Cholesterol can get affected, blood sugar levels get affected, and I've talked about blood pressure and heart rate. And very often people can find it very difficult to lose weight in these situations as well, because the last thing the body wants to be doing when you're stressed is giving up vital fat storages, which are important for the preservation of life. So BMI and waist to hip ratio can get affected as well. There's a whole host of other biological markers as well that can be affected. Over here on the right hand side, these are physiological responses to stress from the fight or flight response as well. So this is allostatic load. Very important to remember that we have balance, we have outlets, and that stress can affect us massively, and it can also affect us in ways which stop us allowing to reach our fitness goals. So it's important that we manage both our physical health but also our mental health, and we look for practical solutions for things which are getting in the way of stopping us to get to our goals, and that can include stresses that are going in our life that we want to try and eliminate and erase. So important that we consider these factors here. So, a few other things. There's a whole host of other slides on here you can see around behaviour change and emotional thinking that if you are dealing stress, which might be useful for you to go and have a look at. There's also a link here to a video on something called cognitive distortions, and then there's a nice little exercise here that I suggest that anyone who is struggling a little bit with some of these cognitive distortions might want to consider doing as well. So you can just click this link here and have a look at this, and this can help us manage our stress as well. I'm Dr. Andrew Schmel. Thank you for your attention, and good luck, pro preppers, on getting to your results, and I hope you find this useful. Thank you.